The crypto market has not been easy to be a part of for the last roughly 5 months, with the trade war happening back in January, stretching out all the way up until now, and then all of a sudden the Israel and Iran conflict. All of this is, things that are out of our control, and it's things that add severe pressure to the market in a negative and even a positive way. For an example, the trade war, what we saw with the trade war was we were witnessing pauses for 90 days here and there, and then all of a sudden the market would be able to breathe again, and then all of a sudden something else would happen. We got a big update about, China and the US, and then boom, the markets are down again. And now, well, we are really kind of seeing if the US is going to get involved with the Israel-Iran conflict or not. And anything that we hear about this from Trump, all of a sudden the market does whatever it wants to do. If it's a positive post, then the markets really kind of breathe a little bit more. But if it's a negative post, we just continue to drop. Now, the problem here is that we actually haven't really witnessed any positive price action, especially even on Bitcoin since going back to roughly May, where we did hit an all-time high. In this video, I really want to go over a few things. Number one, I want to go over the worst case scenario, but then I also want to talk a little bit about the positive side of things. When we really kind of look at crypto right now, obviously things are down significantly today. And also, by the way, this is the monthly view. This is what the daily actually looks like. We do have some things that are down significantly, like I said. But if we really kind of look at the weekly and on the monthly, we could really see the pain that's been hitting this market. For an example, on the monthly, we could see that there's over 20 plus to 30 plus to even some of them being 40+% drops across the board for altcoins. Now, again, like I said, this is not fun to endure, and it's not a, good thing. One thing that I will say is that although price action has been pretty negative and so has sentiment, we have to make sure that we're watching things happening behind the scenes as well for crypto. That's really going to allow us to not just have higher price action, but also for the entire crypto market to be, fully, embraced globally, which I'll talk about here in a moment. But today's price action, Bitcoin $103,000, Ethereum about $2,400, and of course XRP about $2.12. On the monthly, XRP is down 11.4% compared to Ethereum and Bitcoin, which are down about roughly 6.1 and 6.2%. On the yearly though, and I really want to stress this when it comes to XRP and a lot of altcoins actually, XRP is still up 334%, Ethereum is down 31.2%, and Bitcoin's only up about 59.2%. If we actually look at this across the board, XRP is the fourth largest gainer in the last year compared to, the top 100 crypto assets. Now, of course, yes, there's others that are outperforming XRP, but these are also recent launches. But also, a few other altcoins that are up in a big way, XDC, HBAR, XLM. Most of the utility-based projects have been up significantly in the last year, and they're just kind of going with the flow of the market right now. And I know that it sucks to see all the positive news coming out around crypto and there's no positive price action. I want you guys to realize that it doesn't matter on what kind of positive news we get if there's a war ongoing or if there's a trade war ongoing. These things add immense amount of negative pressure to the market, which does affect the market. And we're still tied back to Bitcoin. So if you're sitting here and you're wondering, why is XRP down today? Is it because of this or is it because... No, it's because of Bitcoin being down. Okay? It's the simplest way to look at things. While Bitcoin dominance is over 64+%, altcoins are not going to get that, moment to really breathe in a big way. But let's actually focus on some positive things happening around crypto. Number one, the Genius stablecoin bill, right? Senate just passed it. This is going to be a huge one, right? We still have a few things that we have to go through with this bill in order to actually get it fully, enacted. But if we go over here, we know from Eleanor Tourette, she's been speaking with a few people. Trump just got a ton of calls from industry stakeholders to the Hill, right? This was in regards to the market structure legislation as well. So on top of the stablecoin legislation, we're now hearing talks about the market structure legislation as well. And this could all be finished by August, which is Trump's own deadline. We heard from Trump that he doesn't want any delays, no add-ons or anything like that. He wants the Genius Act to get to his desk as soon as possible so that he could sign it into law And if that's the case, listen, we get both of these signed into law by August. That's going to be huge for crypto. Now, this is still something ongoing behind the scenes of all this negative price action. On top of that, ETFs around altcoins are still at 90% or higher. We still have a large portion of altcoin ETFs that could easily be passed through this year, because there's over a 90+% chance for a lot of these altcoins to get an ETF this year. And this is actually coming from ETF analysts that have been really kind of spot on with even the Bitcoin ETF, the Ethereum ETF, and they work at Bloomberg on this type of stuff. Like, these are ETF analysts, senior ETF analysts as well. On top of that, the FOMC meeting. So obviously the Fed did not cut rates, right? We got that news. So June was basically just a pause. In July, there's a 16.5% chance of a rate cut. In September, it's actually over 70+% that we will get a rate cut. This is something to watch for. If we have to endure the summertime without any price action like last summer, we will do that. I personally think that we will see higher price action before September. Obviously, I could easily be wrong, and I will admit that if I am wrong. But with all of this happening around crypto, the ETFs, the stablecoin bill, the market structure legislation, the possible Fed rate cut happening in July. If we do get it in July, that would be huge. But even in September is fine. I'm totally fine with that. During this time, there's so much ongoing around crypto, on top of adoption, on top of the institutional players that are kind of diving on into stablecoin initiatives and crypto initiatives. All of this is happening while price action for the last 5 months just has not been exciting. And I even said this over on X. I said 5 months. That's how long it's been since we actually had any significant price action across the board for crypto. The noise is getting louder. We are starting to see retail crumble. I read, hundreds of comments a day, and the majority is tired, frustrated, and now giving up. The consensus right now is that there will be no alt season, that this market has topped, and we are now entering the bear market. I see this as an opportunity rather than a certainty. There are 2 scenarios we are in right now, and either one really does benefit those who are willing to take on the risk. Number 1, we are closer to alt season than ever before, with a potential start in July. I've talked about this on multiple occasions, why I do believe that it could happen by the end of this month into the beginning of July. Then scenario number 2, we are following the 2020 and 2021 timeline, and we will see alt season start around the end of this year into 2026. That's also a possibility. I personally think that we are following scenario 1 simply because of the time frame patterns on Bitcoin dominance in the total 3 from previous cycles. I could easily be wrong here, and we could just be following scenario 2, but either way, I believe we see much higher price action soon. This is not an easy game. If it was, everyone would be able to play it and win, but that's just not the truth. Many will be shaken out, many will sell way too early, and most will actually lose money before they make any profits. Just remember that you didn't get lucky and that this wasn't an easy path to winning. Now, to really kind of, build upon this, I'm not the only one that sees this. There's a select few analysts in this market that are also on the same exact, thought process as me. For an example, a good friend of mine, Bobby, put out a great post, and he said macro trend up, because we are in an upward macro trend. Sentiment in the gutter, narratives end of days. Everyone thinks that this is the end of the market, that we're done, that we're finished. Outlook of the majority, bearish. Euphoria nowhere to be seen. The perfect setup doesn't exist. Right now, this market is dead. Nobody even cares about crypto. Nobody's paying attention at a time where we see the ETFs around the ETFs around altcoins picking up, stablecoin, bills starting to get passed through at the same exact time that we could see market structure legislation pass through along with the stablecoin legislation. Like, think about this market right now and what's building behind the scenes. And by the way, to really kind of build upon the end of days narrative, all the big accounts are now flipping bearish. They have been bearish for the last few months, actually. For an example, Finance Lancelot put out a post talking about buckle up, Bitcoin bros. Bitcoin just completed 2 Elliott Wave 5s. ending the 14-year cycle. This coincides with parabolic support turning negative. Bitcoin will never go any higher. Bitcoin will never go any higher. Oh, you gotta love it, right? So now the thought process here is that Bitcoin is finished, that it's completed its 14-year cycle, and that we're going to, down to $20,000 or even lower. Gotta love it. Also, bar chart, what's next? Here's the S&P 500, right? And it's an outlook that we lost this overall trend from, back in March and April, and that we're dropping on the spider index, by the way. This is the spider index. We're dropping out of it, which means that we have to cascade, right? We're going to zero here, right? Just the other day, I also saw another post regarding the dot-com bubble, right? Like, everyone's looking at it and saying, all right, well, we're in the dot-com bubble. That means that we have to, drop and crash right now, right? We are in a technology revolution. One that's bigger than the internet. AI, blockchain, DLT, stablecoins, all of this. When we think about what's happening here, yeah, there's definitely things that we can compare to the dot-com bubble. I think it's far too early to say that we are about to pop, though. When it comes to all of these big accounts, engagement farming off of fear, right? Because you can clearly see it, 2.1 million views. The engagement is off the roof. Like, I just want you guys to understand that you're going to see a lot of this. There's a lot of noise out there. At a time where, like I said, there's so much happening around crypto. The dollar is extremely weak, which, by the way, a weak dollar, what does that typically signal? It means that risk on assets are actually very bullish. They are all flipping negative at this time. And I get it. I understand it. Okay, I do. When it comes to XRP and Bitcoin, I do have two major levels of interest. This is worst case scenario. We don't pump into July. In fact, we actually drop from here. XRP drops to $1.80. Okay. From $1.80, we actually start to move back up. We retest this major resistance level. We sell off from it. Have a nice little drop in the market. We retest a significant support zone, maybe even around like $2.20 again. Okay, and then from here, we finally break to the previous highs. Again, very similar price action. We sell off a little bit, maybe flip a resistance zone into support, and then we finally get that big breakout that we want. Okay, and this will be into the end of the year where this price action will actually start to realize in. This is the worst case scenario. We don't pump from here. We actually drop more. We target $1.80, $1.90, and then we go higher. The same goes for Bitcoin, right? I have the Bitcoin outlook here. Yeah, bearish price action here. We have, a higher high technically on the chart going back to, like December. This is the May high. So we drop here. We target about roughly $83,500, might even get a wick below it. From here, we retarget these highs, sell off yet again because we hit major resistance, maybe sell off into a shallow level, maybe like the mid 90K region. We just kind of chop a little bit more in this range, and then we finally break out. And this takes us to our official top of the cycle. We get our alt season, XRP's trading at over $5 plus, whatever. That's the worst case scenario here. We drop and then we go. Because again, everyone wants it now. This would completely shake the tree. Everyone would be frustrated. They would be finished. They would be done. And all of a sudden, we get the biggest pop of the cycle. Again, this happened many times over. This happened back in 2020 into 2021 as well. Leading into December of 2020, for an example, things sold off. XRP had the lawsuit announcement. And then towards the end of December into the beginning of January, guess what we saw? Ethereum going, parabolic, leading into altcoins going parabolic as well. Now, outside of course, Bitcoin and XRP, I also want to share one more thing with you guys that's building behind the scenes, which is M2, the global M2 money supply. 12-week lead, Bitcoin. You guys saw this chart many times over. Okay, if you actually look at this, the M2 supply actually drops slightly, which Bitcoin should also drop slightly with it, which guess what? We're dropping. This could be a little bit more of an exaggerated drop on Bitcoin. Like I said, back down to like the low mid 80K region. This would, retest a major demand zone. Then we actually go and we follow the M2 supply. Bitcoin, 150K, 160K. I'm totally fine with anywhere between there. 140 to 160K is a very good zone to really kind of look at with Bitcoin. And during that time, like I said, with higher price action, altcoins should see alt season officially happen. We're still in, of course, a Bitcoin season right now. That's why altcoins suck. That's why the price action really kind of sucks across the board. That's why we haven't really seen any, significant price action on altcoins since going all the way back to like December and January. But I do think that right now, the number one thing that everyone should focus on is that it has been 5 months, right? It has been 5 months since we saw significant price action across the board. XRP has been going sideways and in this downtrend for over 156 days. At the same exact time that we continue to see geopolitical tensions rising, we see this trade war still causing issues. Tariffs are an excuse for the Fed not to cut rates. So right now the environment looks so bearish. The sentiment is so bearish. While we see all of these great things happening around crypto, and everyone's wondering, like, why aren't we pumping? Well, it's because we're tied back to Bitcoin, which Bitcoin's tied back to stocks, which stocks are tied right back to all of this geopolitical tension. So until we actually start to see, a disconnect and Bitcoin really kind of, start to have that significant price action, which, like I said, we might have another sell-off before that significant price action actually happens. This market's going to remain very boring and frustrating and maybe even a little bit more painful for altcoins if we have these deep wicks to the downside. But I want you guys to realize that this will be an opportunity. It won't be a time where you want to get out and completely avoid crypto for the rest of your life. This is an opportunity in disguise. I want you guys to understand that this is not the time to start giving up. This is not the time to get shaken out. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys definitely will like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord down in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.